Friday, guys. Welcome to Sip and Chat World Changers TV. I'm your host, Dhylles Victoria, queen of the Sip and Chat. Of course, I have my snazzy shirt on. It's been a great week so far. For those of you who didn't know, I lost my grandmother recently, so me and my family went back to Belize to celebrate her life and not her death. She was 93 years old. Amazing woman. I got the feistiness from her, the savviness from her. Like, she was just great. 18 kids, which made no damn sense. And I'm here because of her. So I just wanted to say a little, pay a little homage to her for just being loving and caring and authentic and transparent and actually raising me since I was 2 weeks old and allowing me to be the person that I am today. So I just wanted to put that out there real quick. Today on the show, we have an amazing human being. She is my kindred spiritual sister. I love her dearly. She's doing so many amazing things. But before we get into that, I definitely have to thank our sponsors because without them, we can't do this. So sponsors are Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Paper to Film Productions, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Revolution Mills, Renovations, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. So thank you so much for our sponsors. We truly are humbled and appreciate the fact that you sponsor Source Radio Network and Sip and Chat World Changers TV. Again, Dhylles Victoria here, and I have an amazing guest for you guys. Her name is Angela Kaufman. She is dynamic and powerful. She's an author, she's a coach, she's a speaker. I believe this woman has a cape where she flies around the whole world and do all these things that she does. But she is here today on the Sip and Chat World Changers TV. And I am so honored and humbled to have her. And she's going to share so many different nuggets and all these little things that she has going on with her book, her business, her events, and everything under the sun that we can wrap up before we finish the interview. So thank you so much for joining me today, Angela. How are you today?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I am doing great. We're off to a great start of the day, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. I remember when I met you through, it was Laura.
I think so. We're going back a little ways. I know my memory's a little hazy.
And she was telling me about you, how wonderful you are, and you're very spiritually connected and all the things that you did. And I'm like, I need to get her on my show. So here we are on my show.
Yes.
Awesome. So the most important question of Sip and Chat World Changers TV is, what are you sipping on today?
Well, today I'm sipping on some delicious tea. It's actually made from mushrooms, and it's supposed to be good for immunity and detox and all that stuff. And I'm no longer a chocolate eater and drinker. So the trick of it is, if you don't eat chocolate for like 10 years, this mushroom tea tastes kind of like hot chocolate.
Wow. I don't know if I can do that. You're a brave woman. I don't know if I can give up chocolate just yet, but I definitely need to cut down on it. So, but that's amazing. Mushroom just tastes like chocolate. What is that? What does that taste like? I'm trying to.
It doesn't at all. Like, so it doesn't taste like a wet salad. It's kind of like an earthy, like if you imagined like a not super sweet hot chocolate that was just kind of earthy tasting. It's actually really good. But like, yeah, if I didn't say it was mushroom, like to know it's mushroom, it's like, oh, is it gonna taste like like a watery salad? But it doesn't. It's good. It's good stuff.
I'm drinking peppermint tea in a happy birthday cup because every day should be a birthday.
Nice.
So cool. So tell us who you are, what you do, what makes you absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Well, my name's Angela Kaufman. I'm an intuitive empowerment and relationship coach and author. And before I would have called myself any of those things, I was just like anyone else starting out in the world, starting out with a career. My background is in social work, and life twists and turns and took me way off course from where I thought I would be going, and kind of landed me on this new path where I guide people to empowerment by connecting us with our spiritual gifts, our higher power, our intuition. I'm really passionate about helping people understand that we have so much more strength and ability than we give ourselves credit for, whether that's the ability to attract a relationship, when we don't necessarily, maybe we don't feel empowered, or people get panicked and they think, oh my God, I'm getting to a certain age, I haven't found anybody yet, or I keep finding the same type of not satisfying relationships, what's wrong with me? And we tell ourselves those kinds of things. And the empowerment piece is really big for me. So I also do empowerment coaching, where we focus on the different kinds of energies that make up not only all of us, but the entire world, nature, the universe. These energies connect us directly with divine source. And so I help people to understand what these energies are, how to balance them, how to work them in their positive expression, so that no matter what's going on around us, we can rise up to as high as we need to be, as high as we're meant to be.
Amen. I'm gonna drink that real quick.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Exactly. That is so awesome. When did you realize that this is what you're supposed to be doing in life?
It sort of emerged over a period of time, over a process. So like I mentioned, I thought I was going to be a social worker. I thought that was kind of my calling, and I have no regrets. I mean, I learned a lot through, through grad school, through the time that I was working with people. But back in 2009, I was involved in a life-changing accident. I was actually hit by a car as a pedestrian. And I know people cringe, and I always say, like, to talk about it, it sounds awful. It was awful, but it's over, and it was one of the best things that's ever happened. Now, I'll say that with a footnote. Don't go out and kids don't try this at home.
Disclaimer.
Right. Look both ways like 5 times. But I do believe that it was sort of a divine intervention in a way, because I had been feeling like I needed to be doing something different. I wasn't quite sure what, and I'm particularly stubborn. So I think spirit knows that, I need a sports car to the head to like get myself in line sometimes. Because I just want to like run where I think I'm supposed to be going. But even then it wasn't right away. What ended up happening was, there was a period of several years after the accident where and right away I was just like, okay, like in the hospital, like, okay, I'm going to be back to work next week, which it wasn't a week, but my thought was, I just want to get back to my job. I just want to get back to work doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And it really emerged over a course of several years that I was not going to be good at doing anything unless I allowed myself some space to heal from some of these injuries, and in particular a mild brain injury that really takes time and rest and patience and all of those things to really heal. So as I was going through this process of like, oh no, what do I do now? Little things started to emerge. I had started a small tarot business, which was supposed to be kind of like a fun thing on the side. So suddenly I'm doing that a little bit more. And as I was doing that more, I started to develop it more into a coaching practice instead of just, people come for the same basic questions over and over again anyway. So rather than working with the same people saying, well, when's he going to text me? When's he going to call me? That kind of thing. Why not take a look at the energetics around how can you attract the person who is on the same level with you, and you don't have to like stress yourself about when's he going to text, when is he, or when is this person going to call me, why aren't they doing this or that, changing your energy to change who you're attracting. So I started to go in that direction, and as I was going in that direction, I started to build on what I was basically doing in my own recovery, working with the 4 archetypal energies, the 4 elemental energies, to realign myself and to discover who I was. Because the thing is, before the accident, I was like a really, one of these people who is like a type A, you mentioned the cape, like you should have seen the cape before, I'll tell you. I would always have like 5
this song, right?
It was great. And I was used to like really identifying myself and gaining self-esteem and self-image and identity from my work, from being able to read a bunch of books at once, from the intellect. And of course, having a brain injury, recovering from a brain injury, that superpower kind of takes a back seat, and I had to figure out what are the other, what's the other capes I gotta wear now?
Right, exactly.
So the thing. So that started to become my focus of working with people, like, what other capes, what other powers do you have when life takes one and pushes it off to the side? What else are you going to draw on to get you through whatever you're going through?
That's awesome. I kind of could relate to that because I had near-death experience, and I had fibroids, and they were infected, and they like shut down my whole system. And being in a hospital, just laying in the bed, and you can't move or do anything because I had a whole bunch of antibiotics in and out my system. And I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. So you're sitting in, you're wondering like, okay, so what does this mean? Like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So when I came out of the hospital after having 2 surgeries back to back, 3 weeks apart, it was just like, okay, I know that in my spirit, like you said, spirit tells you specific things about yourself when you're going through those types of situations. And that was when I was like, okay, well, I know I got to get my life coaching license. I know that I have to, be a motivational speaker. I know I have to share with the world, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing instead of everything else I was doing. Because I was in the fashion industry for a very long time, and it was just like steps leading up to the coaching and empowerment and all that stuff there. And I was just like, okay, no, that doesn't align with my energy and my spirit. And I felt like at that time, like you were saying, that sometimes, you have to go through some type of process or some type of incident for you to just be like, well, damn, like, no, that's not it. So I totally understand. And my cape was like this long too. I totally get it. So I got your book, Queen Up, Reclaim Your Crown When Life Knocks You Down. Loved it. Loved it. You guys can see it. But it says, who is your inner queen? What if you had the power to awaken your full potential? Will you be willing to honor your dreams at any price? Are you ready to queen up? What was the inspiration behind this book, and why is it called Queen Up? I love, love, love the title, by the way. When I first heard it, I was like, this is so me.
Thank you. Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. There's a woman local to my area. Her name is Teresa Smolin. And over tea one afternoon, she was helping me brainstorm because she does copy editing and things like that. And so originally I self-published, and the title was Discover Your Inner Queen, Mystical Path to Empowerment. But we were trying to find like catchy wording and things like that. And she was like, oh, how about queen up? And I always took it as like, life gets messy, queen up, like clean up. But after the book was published, the publisher Konari really loved, Queen Up was going to be the title of one of the chapters. And they loved the title. They were like, oh no, it's so catchy. Let's make it the book name. Yeah, so people always said, oh, is that queen up like man up? And I'm like, well, you could look at it that way, but that wasn't intended.
Like, put your big girl panties on.
That's right. The queen, put your queen cape on, right? The queen panties and the queen cape. There you go. You got to get back into fashion and do the line of queen cape.
I know, right? Have women walking around with capes and everything.
That'd be awesome. Oh man. Oh, here we go. Okay. But the idea also came in stages. So prior to the whole accident, life-changing thing, I was connected with a spiritual group. We shared a path that is nature-based, earth-based, sort of pagan, Wiccan community. And we were aligned with the different 4 elements. And so for folks who don't know the elements, that's air, fire, water, and earth. And so we looked at it as, the elements are all over nature, but they're also parts of us. And that's not a unique idea to pagans. That's also like Ayurveda talks about a similar idea. Chinese medicine talks about a similar idea. Yeah, it's a concept that's been around, maybe not so much in like mainstream Western world, but all different cultures have these beliefs that there's like different, almost like different queendoms or kingdoms or different energies that exist in the natural world, and we're a part of that. And when we look at our part in that, we tend to look at things like our personalities, so you have a fire personality or a water personality. And each of the queens from the tarot represents one of those domains, one of those elemental energies. So as I was working on my recovery, I started to realize I was shifting from air energy, which is again, that intellectual energy, going more into the intuitive energy, which is more water. I had, like you said, when you're stuck in a hospital bed, you're told that's water. You are placid, you are totally passive, totally receptive to what's going on around you. You have to go into this water phase. And for me, that's where a lot of my intuition started to open up, and I started to realize like I didn't really lose anything. Just one energy is being put in the back seat. Another one's it's like a Pez dispenser. Another one's gonna come up to the surface. And I started to realize as I was coaching people that other people were going through transitions, and using the queens from the tarot was a real easy way in a reading or in a coaching session. It was a real easy way to say, okay, well, here's one side of yourself, but here's another side of yourself that you haven't been identified with, that nobody gave you praise for growing up, that maybe you didn't know existed. And so as I was doing this, I thought, well, maybe I'll put a little workbook together just for my clients. But of course, I start writing it, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe this will be just for, whoever I can distribute it to. And then I keep going, like, okay, well, maybe I want a real publisher for this, not just, me publishing it. And it was about 4 years that it took from start to finish, not because the writing was difficult, but because I think there was kind of a path that this wanted to take. And then there's me being stubborn, like, no, maybe I'll just keep it over here.
Yeah.
Like, no, we need to put it out further. But I'm grateful to Konari. They did a great job publishing, and that beautiful artwork is by a fellow named Shaheen Miro.
Yeah, amazing.
He's an amazing artist. He's also very connected with spirit, very connected with divine feminine. So everything just fell into place once I decided, okay, I'm going to let this go where it needs to go.
What is your favorite chapter of the entire book for you? What is the favorite chapter?
Wow. You know, that's a tough question for me to answer because I worked on it for so long that I feel like, I really feel like I got to embrace all the different sides of it. But, you know, I will say one of my favorite parts, it's a little bit further on in the book, but there's a section on working with the queens for manifesting. And I have to say that's probably my favorite, only because I feel like it's a different way for people to use these energies, because for years the concept was going to be like personality profile. What's your identity? What's your energy? And I spent a lot of energy and time working with that aspect of it. But the part on manifestation was came about a little bit later in the writing process. And one of the reasons that I really am excited about that is because I feel like it has a slightly different message than what a lot of other books on manifestation are saying these days. So, I mean, you get it. I totally believe in attraction. I totally believe in manifestation, but I also believe that we tend to leave out the higher guidance. And so I'm partial to that part of it because I want people to realize, you know, the inner queen can be a part of your higher self, a part of yourself. You can think of it as a spiritual guide, however far down the rabbit hole you want to go. You can just stay on the surface and think, this is a part of my personality. That's fine. But the manifestation part is really where we open up to our power. But it also talks about how that doesn't mean we get a blank check to just run through the universe doing whatever we want to do because we want something. And I feel like that's a message that's missing from similar books that, you know, that are encouraging empowerment, but not with with no parameters.
Right. I totally get that. I think that that's brilliant because a lot of times when manifestation is concerned, I think a lot of people, first of all, don't really understand what that means and what that looks like and how to do it and how to put the feelings, you know, mind, body, how to connect everything when you manifest. They think it's just saying, okay, well, I want $1 million and it's supposed to it comes out of thin air. You know what I'm saying? So to go into detail and depth into it and talk about it on such a specific level, and you just taught me something about just the elements of, you know, air, water, fire, and all that stuff there, and, you know, the different elements of how one takes a back seat so the other ones will come forth and so on and so forth. I never realized that is true. It is true. So that's brilliant. For me, when I was reading it, there was a part in here that stuck out to me. If I can find it again, I just had it. It was about anger alchemy. That there for me, because everyone kept telling me, you know, Dhylles, you need to read The Alchemist. You need to read the book The Alchemist, because there's a lot of things that you do in your life that kind of mimics that. And I was just like, okay. So when I saw it in the book, I was just like, okay, there goes Angela talking to me. But what's your take on that? What's your take on alchemy?
Well, you know, the word is used to cover a lot of ground these days. And, you know, really, when we look at science, it's so funny how people look at the spiritual stuff that we do and it's coming around into the mainstream, but it's slowly coming around into the mainstream. And the rebuttal is always, well, it's not science. But really, magic and alchemy are the first sciences. You know, alchemy is the basis, you know, for what later became chemistry. So my belief about it is that it's really the process of purification of ourselves. And we can also look at, you know, purification of the world around us. How do we raise our vibration? How do we make the most pure form of whatever we're given. And I know folks who get like really down into the scientific part of it, and they've got like the what do you call it, like the little burners and everything, and they're actually working with solids and turning one thing into another, which is totally cool. I always joke that I didn't do particularly well in science and math, but if my school had taught astrology, I would have paid more attention. But we did like the boring stuff, what I thought was the boring stuff. But there's different levels of it too. So personal alchemy, so when people come for your coaching services, you're taking them through a personal alchemy process where they're taking, this is who I am at this stage, we're going to raise it up. And as we're changing, any change we make, whether it's giving up cigarettes, whether it's giving up negative thinking or turning our negative thinking around into more empowered thinking, there's a transformation process going on there, and it actually changes our energy. And there's really interesting science catches up with this stuff. There's some really interesting science about how our brains actually change. Our chemistry actually changes. And we were talking a little earlier about how even our DNA changes depending on the negative stuff or positive stuff that we're exposed to. So, the ancient alchemical folks were onto something with this idea of like transformation on this very fundamental level. So we could look at it as the turnaround that happens in our energy when we bring in more light, more positivity, when we learn to put on the different capes. For the queens, it's like each one of them represents an element, and we can dabble with those elements. I'm loving the cape analogy. I'm gonna give because
you're so welcome.
Let's say you want to attract a certain kind of energy. You're going to connect with, a certain kind of outcome. You're going to connect with the energy that's most conducive to that outcome. And for me, a lot of my life, I was a very angry person. I've got to say, one improvement that came from having a head injury is I'm much more forgiving because I can't remember stuff I want to be mad at. But
I struggle with that forgiveness part as well. I think a lot of people do, but I think with us being very spiritual and empaths and intuitives and healers and so on and so forth, the fact that you feel everyone and everything is just like so hard at times.
It totally is. And I think we do the spirit, some parts of the spiritual community, we do each other a disservice in trying to act like we should have like the eraser and erase the bad feelings, erase the anger. You should be pious and not angry and no F-bombs and all of that. And I don't necessarily think that's helpful, but I do believe that we can anger is very transformative. And when we get to a point where we channel that anger and use it as a catalyst for change, which a whole lot of people are, thank goodness, a whole lot of people are waking up and channeling their anger for social change, for personal change. It's a very that's Queen of Swords energy, and that's very powerful energy depending on how we choose to use it. So we don't have to get like stuck in the murkiness of it. We can use that idea of alchemy and refine ourselves and use that anger as a catalyst.
Yeah. I always say that I work on giving myself permission to be angry in a positive sense and not a negative sense, where I am actually accepting and embracing the anger, and that it's not a form of anything being bad, and it's just me being an imperfect being where it's part of who I am, it's part of my DNA, it's a feeling that I have. I can't be Susie Sunshine all damn day. I need to make sure that I'm in tune, checking myself with how I feel. And I just walk around like, yeah, everything is Susie Sunshine, the sun is shining, and the roses and the rose petals on the bed, Like, there's times where you're going to be pissed off and mad and annoyed and upset and irritated. And it's just honoring those feelings.
Absolutely. It's so important. And even thinking about it energetically, think of how much energy moves with anger, which if we let it move, like if you just put on the radio or do some exercise or even scream for a little while or call someone up and vent, or like a lot of what I end up doing is through writing. I will write there's some topics that I got to go through several drafts to get the snarkiness down to tolerable before I can post them. But it's moving energy, and we don't want to hold that energy because then it's destructive, because it's going to come out one way or the other.
Yeah, so true. Very, very true. So how did you realize, and if you did or if you didn't, I'm going to ask the question anyway, but how did you realize you were a world changer?
Okay. I don't know if I ever consciously realized it, although it's been a part of who It's been a part of who I've always been, to be very aware of the world around me. So like my mom will tell me stories of like when I was 4 and there were the commercials on TV where there were like starving kids in other countries, and it like really had this deep effect on me. And I would try to like, well, why, my rationale at that time was, well, why don't their parents just take them to McDonald's, because like like that was not the solution. But like I was always really deeply affected by things that I would see going on around me in the world. And being that I, have a big mouth and, I kind of always saw it as my responsibility to say something or do something. And even like in small ways on an individual basis as a social worker, on larger ways as an activist, I never really thought of it as being a world changer, but more as a responsibility that if you know that there's a better way to do something, or if you know that there's a way to try to improve the world, it only seemed natural to me, like that's what you're supposed to do. And in fact, the idea that there are some, the whole serenity prayer, the idea that there are some things that are not within my control is actually this very strange idea to me. And like that took some getting used to.
Oh.
It's also that whole idea that like I can't just go in and fix everything, but I can do my part. But I think through writing, that's when I became more conscious of pretty much whether it's the nonfiction stuff that I write, like Queen Up, there's always an element of wanting to teach, empower, advocate, whether there's some fiction things that I'm working on. And so even though there's this like little storyline and all that, there's really a message behind it. So to me, it's always been kind of like a natural extension of who I am to say, okay, well, if you're going to create something, make it useful. Like make it useful, make it a catalyst for change.
Yeah, I wish I had some champagne in my cup right now, because that is brilliant. Because it's how I think too. I feel like, it's a responsibility for us as human beings to want to change the world and make it better in the positive direction, and communicate and work with each other, and share our stories and experiences and things that we've been through to help somebody else, because you don't know who you're going to be inspiring along the way or who you're influencing. And I'm huge on that too, because I'm very expressive, and I use my voice, and I have a big mouth too, so I totally understand where you're coming from. That's why we connect so well.
Yes, we have very similar energy, absolutely.
Yes, and I feel like, it's a responsibility, and I've always felt like that too, and I've been that person too, watching TV, anything that's happening in the world, like hurricanes, earthquakes, and those kind of stuff, and it's just like it does something to me. So I don't even watch TV. I don't even own a television in my home, because there's so much that take place within my heart and my soul. I'm like, I can't watch this. This is just, it's crazy. It's too much. So
yeah,
instead of wanting to just sit there and just look at it, I prefer to do something about it, whichever way that is in my control, like you said, because some certain things we cannot control, but we can control specific things of how to help the situation, then yeah, it is a responsibility. So that's awesome. I love that. But cool. Can you let us know what other things you have coming up, events, appearances, all that good stuff?
Oh, sure. I'm going to be getting a lot of use out of the Cape this fall. The Cape is going on. So let's see. We're coming up on September already. How crazy is that? I have a lot of events going on, and the best way to always stay on top of that, my events are posted on my website, which is intuitiveangela.com. But to give you an idea, so the weekend of September 7th through 9th, I will be in Point Sebago, Maine for the Power of You retreat. I am so excited about this event. It's going to be really great. It's an event for women and men. A lot of the events that I do, just because a lot of my clients tend to be women, some of the events are specifically for women, but not all of them. So this one is a retreat for women and men. It's very holistic based. There's going to be other workshops and presenters and things like that, but we're going to do some in-depth queen up work, or king up if dudes are there. And in the middle of it, it's like sandwiched around this Mind, Body, Spirit festival at the same location. So there's still a few spots left for that if folks are interested. That's again, September 7th through 9th. I'll be at the Barnes & Noble in Newington, New Hampshire for a book signing on September 15th. September 21st, I'm super excited to be at Namaste Yoga Studio, which is in Saratoga, New York. They're celebrating their 5th year anniversary, and they're going to have a bunch of different holistic practitioners. I'll be there doing a mini presentation and some book signings. And then let's see, end of September going into October, I'm going to be headed out to the Midwest. So I'll be at Pathways Books, Heart, Body, and Soul, both in Missouri. Then Illuminations in Iowa, and a few spots. I'll be at the Barnes & Noble in Lansing, Michigan, Triple Goddess in Lansing, Michigan, and Coyote Wisdom in Lansing, Michigan. And there's other stuff that's worked into the fall too, but the more complete list is, I'm like really testing my memory this morning. I don't want to leave anybody out. The full list is on the website.
You're doing good.
Yeah, it's been such a trip to be able to take this on the road and meet different communities and share this message with people. So I'm looking forward to a lot more traveling in the next year too.
Awesome. And your book can be found Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, everywhere under the sun?
Pretty much everywhere books are sold, and on my website, but really support your local bookstores or the places that you like to go to shop for books. If you have a favorite bookstore and they're not carrying it, contact me. I'll see if I can reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in carrying it, but it's available pretty much anywhere books are sold.
Awesome. So can you tell everyone where they can find you besides your website, all your social media handles, all that good stuff?
Look out for the cape. I'll be flying overhead.
Yes.
I'm on Facebook, Angela Kaufman. I believe it's Angela Kaufman 6, and there's an underscore in there somewhere. But if you search my name, you'll see a picture that looks remotely like me. I had it taken by a professional, and she did a wonderful job. So it bears a resemblance. It's a very
nice picture. I'm looking at it right now.
I'm on Instagram, also Angela Kaufman 6, and it's just a matter of where's the underscore in each handle. I don't recall. And I'm on Twitter. Mostly I'm on Facebook all the time, more than I should be, perhaps.
No, it's good. It's good. I always look for your stuff every day. Like, what is she doing now? Where's she going now? It's all good. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much. It was an amazing conversation, very enlightening interview as well, with everything that you were talking about with the elements. Now you're going to have me go and research all that bad boy and be like, so this is what I found out.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's always good talking to you.
Of course. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Sip and Chat World Changers TV here on Source Radio Network. I'm your host once again, Dhylles Victoria. We'll have another amazing guest next week, Friday. Love and light, peace and energy, and all the blessings in the world to everyone watching. I hope that you have an amazing, amazing weekend. Until next time, guys, and thank you once again for tuning in.
Yo.